I was reflecting this morning. It's fun to speak when I was in my 20s and I spoke. I had to work myself into this spiritual frenzy, for God to be with me, and it's kind of nice to be 60 and not have to do that. So today we're going to talk again about values. So these are our values here, Vineyard values, and just a quick introduction again about values. We've talked about this several times, but values are what you care about. So, for instance, come as you are. Nobody has to order you to come as you are. You just do it here at Vineyard. And Sean wears his flip-flops, and others of us wear jeans or shorts or various, whatever. But we come as we are because it's important to us. And it's a shared, we know it's a shared value. This is who we are. So values tell you who you are. Values can be spoken or unspoken. And what I mean by that is you can have a value and never talk about it. Even though you care about it, you've never really articulated it. So like every one of you has a housekeeping value that's reflected in what your house looks like. And nobody has to tell you to keep your house like that. It just somehow it naturally ends up in the state that you value. And for a lot of us, that state may be messier than we think we value, but it's because we value other things more. So it ends up farther down on the scale. So we all have values. Sometimes we've never articulated them, and that gives us a good opportunity to fight with our spouse about housekeeping. Because we haven't talked about it. So the value of us knowing what our church values are and being able to articulate them is, for instance, if somebody comes to visit and they say, "What's your church like?" Well, you could say there's, 60 or 70 of us, or we have worship and a sermon, duh. Our pastor is Sean. Or if you want to really tell them what our church is like, you could tell them about our values. We value coming as you are. So, no mask, dress however you like, don't worry how you look, people are just normal. That's one of our values. Being known is a value. That's why we spend 10 minutes in the middle of the service just to talk to each other, because we care about knowing one another. So nobody has to tell us that being known is a value, we just do it. So, that's what values are. Today, I want to talk about being known. But before I do that, I almost forgot. One of the goals here of this sermon series is that you actually internalize these words and memorize them. So we're going to say them over a couple of times here. So just say it with me. Devoted to Jesus, being known, come as you are, everyone gets to play for the sake of the world. Let's do it again. Devoted to Jesus, being known, come as you are, everyone gets to play for the sake of the world. Everyone gets to play as a Vineyard thing. That means everybody gets to minister, to participate, to do the stuff. And for the sake of the world means we care about stuff outside of our church. Like, I've met more homeless people in this church who just showed up in 2 years or so I've been here than in the prior 50 years in every church I ever went to. Because we're engaged with our community. I've met more people in recovery here than in every other church that I'd ever been in for the last 40 years, because we care about stuff like that. So that's what values are. We're going to keep repeating and stuff, and maybe Todd will have you at the end repeat with your eyes closed so we can see if we really get it. One other note, these are arranged sort of inward to outward. So devoted to Jesus is our intimate relationship with God. Being known talks about how we relate to each other. So does come as you are. Everyone gets to play starts, we get to minister to each other, and for the sake of the world is outside of our doors. So that's kind of the progression there. So today we're going to talk about being known, and I'm going to share a secret with you this morning about how to catalyze a transparent relationship quickly that really can be life-changing. This literally, the course of my life changed when I started doing this. And it's very simple, but this is one of those things we never talk about. How do you get close to someone? So here's the normal way of building an authentic relationship. You come to church and you meet someone. This is you, this is them. And you start up here, you're on the surface. You're not very authentic. What's the first question you ask? Okay, your name is first. We go a millimeter down in the authenticity thing. Great, I'm Joe, and you are Bob. So the other person meets us there. What do you do for work? Well, I design furniture. What do you do? Well, and a millimeter at a time, we get to know each other in this gradual progression. And sometimes what happens to relationships is the depth that we did at the start is what we always do, because it's sort of, this is the familiar place, and we just keep doing that. So we talk about sports and the Eagles or the 49ers or whoever is our favorite team, and we talk about work, and we talk about maybe family. We don't talk about what's going on inside of us because we've never done that, and it's risky. So we stay up here. But if you're going to get to a real intimacy with someone, to really feel known by a person, how long does it take when you're doing this? Long time? How long? What?
Maybe never.
Maybe never. Yeah. Often years. This is why small groups don't grow. Because you get a small group and we meet for a year or whatever, and we finally get to where we can really be open with each other, and then a new person joins. Whoop! We're way up here again. Dang it. We don't want new people to come because we got a good thing going on, and if someone new comes, it feels risky again. That's the time and trust paradigm. Can anybody identify with that, functioning that way? That incremental? Yeah. So here's the secret. There's a whole other way you can do this, and it involves risk. Because why do we do this? Why do we risk just a little bit at a time?
Walls.
Walls? Somebody over here said something.
Guarding our heart.
Guarding our hearts from what? Being hurt. It's risky. Have any of you ever been hurt by another person? If any of you ever shared something and got the answer you didn't want? I'm feeling really down today. It's not a good day. Well, you just need to spend some time with Jesus. He's so powerful. And if you just would pray like I do. So the number one killer of authenticity is unsolicited advice. And most people, within 30 seconds of when someone expresses a need, are either giving you advice or thinking about what advice they're going to give you. What do you want to hear when you say, man, I'm having a bad day? Yeah.
I'll pray for you.
Okay. Can I pray for you? What else?
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear that?
Tell me about it.
Tell me about it. Why? Okay. What do you want that you want people to say? Tell me about it. Validation, be seen, to be known. How many of you want to be known? It's a good experience yeah. We all love that. To have people that know me and accept me is just a beautiful thing. And you move away, and 10 years later you meet that person that you felt fully known by, and you just go right back to that place again. So everybody wants this, but we're stuck in this risk paradigm that I have to guard my heart. So the way we do intimacy is fear-based. Does that make sense? I'm afraid of what will happen to me, so I take small incremental risks, and I rarely get close to people. So this suggests another solution. Here's the secret. You just do this. You take all the risk. What do you think will happen if you do that? You fall off a cliff. What actually happens is usually the other person will meet you, not always all the way, but some of the way. And even if they meet you halfway, you got as far as you would have in 6 months with the other method. So this doesn't mean you throw your pearls before swine and come up to the cashier at the grocery lane and start telling her about your health issues or whatever. We're going to talk about what makes a good, authentic story. But the fundamental decision you have to make if you want to have NFC in your life is, I'm going to risk for the sake of other people. I'm not taking this risk so I can get my needs met. I'm taking this risk to give you an opportunity to have an authentic relationship with me. So it's a beautiful thing. I can just be transparent. And if you don't want to be transparent with me, you'll give me a surface answer and then we'll go on with our lives. And nothing is lost. But if you meet me halfway, we're really on the way to something beautiful. So how do you tell a story that invites someone to be transparent with you? I'm going to give you 4 keys. Actually, you're going to see these 4 keys because I'm going to tell you 2 stories. Your job is going to be, you listen to the story. Well, first of all, you tell me whether it sounds authentic or not, and then tell me why. And out of what you see, we're going to come up with the principles of authentic storytelling. So I'm going to tell about an incident that happened a couple weeks ago. This is real life. So this is version 1. So tell me if it's authentic or not and why when I'm done. So a couple weeks ago, I'm out walking the dog in the woods and came up to this guy with another dog, and his was off the leash. And all of a sudden it starts running toward us. And I thought we were going to just do the butt sniffing thing that, dogs do. But he attacked our dog. And I'm pulling on our dog, and the other guy's pulling on his dog, and pretty soon we're 2 60-something guys rolling around the mud with 2 60-pound dogs. And finally we pulled them apart and had a good little conversation, and everything was okay, and went home. So, how authentic does that feel? Yes? She's shaking. Say again? Okay, we had a nice conversation. You're shaking your... Okay. Okay. Weren't feelings in it?
It sounded pretty factual.
Okay. Yeah, it's factual. Surface level. So let me tell you another story, and then you tell me the difference. This is the same story, just told different. So I'm out walking the dog behind our house. I'm about 5 minutes from our house. And this other guy is there, and I sort of startled him, and his dog is looking at us, and all of a sudden it comes running. And I just think they're going to say hi. Well, this dog didn't bark, didn't growl, just attacked our dog. And I'm trying to pull him apart. I'm having zero impact. Pretty soon I fall on the ground, skin my legs all up. I've got blood coming down my... The other guy dives and tackles his dog. And his dog has our dog by the throat, and she's yelping, and I'm freaking out. And finally I start punching this dog in the back of the head hard. And about the 5th time he finally let go, and we collapse back on the ground. 2 60-something guys. I was a little afraid the other guy was going to have a heart attack because he laid there for like 5 minutes before he got up. So we talked a little bit. He seemed to be okay. I'm walking home and I think to myself, I was just in the first real fight I've ever been in my life. I have never thrown a punch in my life until that day. And the dog's walking, and she's fine. She's looking around and sniffing. I'm not fine. I'm traumatized. And it's like when our house burned down, there was a week where I just, like the way I noticed I couldn't do math problems, and I was a math major in college, but I'm sitting there trying to divide, and I just couldn't do it. And it's like your world tilts, and you can't untilt it again. And I'm walking home, and I'm bleeding, and Promise is trotting along, and we get home, and I'm really hoping my wife is there. She's not. So... Promise lays down on the ground and goes to sleep, and I'm putting Neosporin on my leg, and then my wife comes in. So I tell her what happened. She's like, oh my gosh, and she goes to the dog and looks it all over and holds it on the ground for a couple minutes, and then she says, I got to go to my exercise class. And I'm like, you cared for the dog, but you didn't care for me. And in that moment, it really hurt. Because I just wanted somebody to hold me. I wanted life to be normal. And, it's not like this destroyed my world, but I really was traumatized for a bit. And she finally came home, and I told her this, and she apologized. And we just sat and watched inane comedies with no content for the rest of the evening and cuddled on the sofa. So that was a recent traumatic experience. So, which of those two stories is most authentic? Okay, so what is it about that story specifically that made it authentic for you?
You get bored, personal detail.
Okay. Okay. How about the rest of you? Did the details make a difference? Okay. I remember this one time in our church. This is way, way back, and we were a church of all young people, and we decided we're going to ordain one of our pastors, and the denomination was like, we do this, not you. And so a thing went out through the prayer chain. Oh, pray for us. We're meeting with the denominational guys. And we all prayed. We were in our 20s. We were young and full of faith and full of ourselves. And the next day, the answer comes back through the prayer chain. It was good. God moved. And we were like, that's it? Details. What happened? So if you want to be authentic, detail, specificity is really important. You can't just say, I had a rough day, but God met me. That doesn't do anything for anybody. So that's one thing. What else made the difference in that second story? Yeah.
You put it in the context of your whole life. Like, I didn't know you had an interaction.
Right. So how did knowing I hadn't been in a fight change the story? Uh-huh. Okay.
I remember my first fight, what that was like, you know what I mean, and how traumatic that was, so,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Okay. So you could identify with something because what was it about? What did you identify with? When you thought of your first fight, what were you thinking of?
Fear, just how scared and shocked
Okay.
and traumatic and shaky and just like, ugh.
Okay. So I'm disclosing emotions, I'm disclosing what's going on inside me, and that's what people identify with. So if you want to make that connection, that's how you do it. You share your feelings, you share imagery that has emotion in it. Now, I could share here's a way to share emotional imagery that doesn't create authenticity. Man, I had this awesome experience with God. It was just glorious. It was like he was right there in front of me. And now, what kind of story are you going to share with me after that? One of your awesome, amazing, a lot of people will try to one-up you. And then you get in a conversation like this that takes you back up the authenticity. But you have to share your emotions from a place of weakness or vulnerability. It can't just be, I was all good. We had this fight and the other guy was really, he was losing it, but I was cool because Jesus is with me. Who cares? So two things. You need specifics, you need details, you need to be vulnerable. You need to disclose feelings so that people can see you not in your best light, in a place of weakness. So what else was in that story that made it authentic?
You kind of made yourself seem real.
What if I shared a story of a normal walk where nothing happened? Does that make people want to be authentic? It's boring. What makes a story like this not boring? Details do, emotions do, but what's the difference between boring and not boring? What? There's struggle in it. Here, I'll give you an example. One time, this is 40 years ago, and this is actually, the details of this are exactly how it happened. I'm in this prayer and share group, and we're in a circle, and everybody's going around saying lame things they want to be prayed for, and we're all praying lame prayers for them. And this one person, one of the things that you do in those groups is you create degrees of separation from your heart. So, my friend has a problem, or, 20 years ago this, and you create distance from what's happening in your heart. So this one kid shares, and here's what they said. I have this friend, and her grandma, her cat has this flatulence problem. I kid you not. And she's really upset about it. I'm wondering if we can pray for my friend's grandma and her cat. And I'm sitting there in the circle at 20 years old thinking to myself, there is no way I'm praying for your farting cat. Why not? It was personal need, but it was the personal need of a friend's cat. Is this really significant to this person? Right. They're not sharing something that they really care about. They're sharing something distant from them, so they don't have to disclose what's really real. So one of the qualities of authentic sharing is it's got to be something significant to you. This was my first fight. If it was my 50th fight, maybe not so much. But you see what I'm saying? You got to care about it. It's got to have some weight to it. So that's 3. Vulnerable, specific, significant. The 4th one is really important. How many of you felt like you needed to get up and pray for me after the story was over? Now, why not? Because when someone shares a need, that's kind of what we do. Why did this story not make you want to do that?
Because there was some wrap up. You were like, I was okay, and there was a resolution.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kathy already comforted you.
Say what?
Kathy already comforted you.
Kathy comforted me already. So there's some resolution, and the fact that there's resolution, when I'm sharing this, what do I need from you? Yeah, nothing. I'm sharing this to give you the gift of an authentic atmosphere. I don't need anything from you to do it. So this is the most important of these things, is when you share to create authenticity, you want to share not from a place of need. I don't need to grab something from you, but from a place of fullness. And you can share this way even when it's immediate and you're really broken. But you're saying, wow, I'm in a tough place right now, and I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to spend some time with Jesus. There's no resolution, but I'm not asking for anything from you. So, not needy is the 4th one, or a gift. Don't be a life-sucking vampire. You know those people that come to your small group, and it comes around to them, and you're just dreading it, because when they start talking, it was such a bad week, the car broke down, and, I didn't have money to get it fixed, and little Billy's iron lung, went on the fritz, and, their life is one continuous tragedy, and if they start talking, it will swallow the whole rest of the group meeting. Don't be that. Okay. How do you respond to that person? Do you just want to hang out with them? And you do want to hang out with them? No, you don't. So we're going to do an exercise. This is going to be fun and a little bit risky. So what I'm going to have you do is find somebody you don't know or don't know well. So you can't do this with your spouse. You can't do this with a relative. You have to find a person you don't know well. And we're going to take 6 minutes each to tell a story that catalyzes authenticity, that makes the other person want to be transparent with you. So we're going to use those 4 qualities. So take a minute and just think of, what's a story I can tell where I'm vulnerable, where it's something significant, where I can do this as a gift. So what we'll do, everybody stand up, and you'll grab a partner, and I will give you 6 minutes to tell that story, and then I will interrupt you, and your partner will give you feedback for 1 minute, then we'll switch places and the other person will tell the story. So